What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today we're going to talk about Fat Albert. It's the 20th anniversary of Fat Albert. And it does have audio description. It stars Kenan Thompson and Kyla Pratt, Dania Ramirez. There's somebody else that's in this cast. He's not really a lead. Somebody else who appears in this film. Maybe why it's hard to find Fat Albert anymore. I'm trying to. What was his name? There's a guy that's in this. You know, that guy who was on TV a while. I don't know. I feel like it's almost like there's been like a mental block that's been placed around his name, and like I'm not allowed to say it anymore. It's very odd. But he's in here, which is why Fat Albert is maybe not the film you expected. So, but it does have audio description, existing audio description for this. And I thought it'd be interesting to talk about the film. When this film came out, I thought this was a dumb idea for film, but it's one of those films that actually has its heart in the right place. Like when you think about it from a screenwriting narrative standpoint, um, there's this thing. It came out the same year, I think, as Garfield, which doesn't have the same vibe, but they're both sort of like old cartoons. But this one's really about like Fat Albert injecting kindness into the world, which is kind of when you look back on it 20 years later, you're like, why don't we have more films like this? So it's really hard to completely hate on the movie, even though it's goofy as hell. This film is goofy. It looked goofy. I remember watching this back in the day, and I was not here for it. Them pulling the Fat Albert and the Junkyard Gang out of the TV was just poor Kenan. The dude had just gotten on Saturday Night Live, and he's doing shit like this anyway. But he's. I mean, who else? Who else would you pick? I mean, he's funny. He's good. He's kind. He's warm in these scenes. He's. I can't really hate the casting choice. Basically, they get pulled out of a TV because there's a girl that's crying and a teardrop lands on the remote. It's a really thin stretch. But and then Fat Albert is like, oh, I have to go help her because like that's his thing, is helping people. So, and like, what is wrong with that? Like, I hate the fact that there's like this fucking person that now we can't talk about the movie. Anyway, so he gets pulled out, and then he just like his intention is to just sort of bring kindness, like it's to try to improve her. He doesn't really know how to do it because this is not his world. He's a cartoon, so he's coming to the real world. He's learning how to do things. He doesn't know what things are. Right at the beginning, there's like a really funny scene where they don't even know how to open like a soda can. They're like, "Do you have a can opener?" It's like, wait a minute, are soda cans really that new of an invention that Fat Albert didn't have them back in the day? Anyway, um, I guess so. Things you learn. But so they have to learn how to open a soda can, which is funny, but also just a lot of things. The extended sequence where Fat Albert's changing clothes and he doesn't have any money then to buy the clothes, and the guy's like, "Why did you?" And he has like $10,000 in clothes. I was like, Jesus, how many clothes are you buying, sir? Um, so it's 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 the kind of thing where it's cheesy. It never needed to happen. But if you're gonna make it happen, and you're gonna try to show it to your kids, and you're gonna have this as representation, it's a film with like almost an entirely black cast. So it's uh, in terms of representation. I don't know though that being able to say, is he represent, like, what kind of representation, like that's the conversation about Fat Albert is. Do you want like obesity to be necessarily, and I'm fat, so I'm obese, is that the kind of thing? But then we get into like the fat shaming conversation, which is a whole different thing. I there are too many things to talk about for a film that nobody wants to discuss anymore because of blank. Blank, Mr. Blank Blank, who unfortunately uh, cannot figure out how to not be in the same room with a woman without. Anyway, so yes, Fat Albert's just kind of been ruined for everybody, just like everything else that he's ever touched has ever been ruined. And we can't talk about them anymore. We can't discuss them. I thought it would be fun to try to do this and to say the one thing that I think that this film has, that if you're going to take it out of context and just never explain it, and maybe just like fast forward through some scenes, um, it's about kindness. It's about bringing kindness and warmth into the world. Essentially, that's what happens. Is that Fat Albert comes because he wants to help, and that's what he wants to do. It's not just some silly bullshit slapstick comedy movie that's an adaptation of something. Sure, it has elements of that, but it also, every time he has the opportunity to be nice and kind, he has those moments, and he has these moments that harken back to a day when, like, there's a moment when he's walking uh, her sister home, and he steps on the outside of the street, which she thinks is weird. She's like, why is it like a masculine thing? And he's like, no, it's to protect you from car splashes. And he like actually explains why guys did that, you know, um, was if a car came by and splashed a puddle, that the man would get splashed on, not the woman. So, and this is 2004. So, I mean, everything felt old fashioned and they were trying to sell it to kids. So they were trying to sell this level of kindness and chivalry to kids. And now we're 20 years later, and I think our world could use a lot of kindness. I just wish we could do an edit of this film and just snip somebody out. I know it's always going to have the J.K. Rowling effect where it's like, who created this? I get that. But at the same time, one of the reasons I want to talk about the film is because what I remembered from it is his sole goal in life seems to be to bring kindness into the world, to bring joy and to bring happiness. And the film is really cheesy. It's not a great film. But I think we could use more of that. I just really hate the fact that there's this dude that's attached to this. I want a Fat Albert cut, like a director's cut of this film where they come back through and they're like, he's not in it anymore. Removed. I don't care if the film makes sense. Cut him. Cut him out. Remove him. Take him out. His name is even said by the audio description at the top of the film, and I was just like, oh god, he has top billing. He's like fourth billed in this, even though he's definitely not the fourth largest thing in this film. So do what you want, I mean, this is always going to be just a conversation about why we can't have nice things anymore. Was this ever a good movie? No, but looking back on it now, I kind of see, in 2004, I wasn't even remotely at the age where I was like, well, what do I want my kids to watch? And if I didn't have to explain to my kids who that guy is and why we can't like him or talk about him anymore, for very good reasons, by the way, for reasons I fully support. It's not sarcastic at all, but there is this underlying theme of warmth and kindness that is sorely missed in a lot of films today, that hopefully will make a return in something else that doesn't have this man attached to it. So I'm going to ask the question I've asked in all my other anniversary reviews. Does this film hold? No, it doesn't. It did not stand the test of time for very obvious reasons. And this will probably seem like a really bizarre review to many of you, but I'm a big fan of Kenan Thompson, and even though I didn't like the movie when it first came out, I did remember going back through and I was like, this would be an interesting film to talk about. And rewatching it again, I was like, wow, uh, yeah, there's a theme here, and that theme is being missed in a lot of movies today. And I think we could return it. We could return to trying to do that, to trying to bring that out in the film. I think maybe that's one of the things I liked about Harold and the Purple Crayon is that it had just a smidgen of that, not to the point of, but it wasn't like cruel or mean, you know. It was trying to be a little bit nicer. And I think we could have something occasionally every year that is just nice. That's just kind. It's not faith based. It doesn't need to be faith based. We don't need to do that. It can just be neutral and we can just have something that teaches our kids to be kind. You know, arguably Inside Out 2 in some ways does that this year in Wild Robot. But so luckily we're doing it through animated films, but we can also do it through live action. There's no reason. So uh goodbye, Fat Albert. The world will continue to know you less and less. Sadly, as a movie, and I think for people who grew up with this, it probably broke their heart even more. You know, I wasn't of the generation. I actually did get to see it in like syndication and stuff like that as a kid because it was still playing, and I have seen it before, like the cartoon, the original cartoon. But it wasn't really something that was an anchor of my childhood growing up. But for other people, it was, and for other people, that's like something of their childhood was ruined. You know, it's like how now being, you know, somebody who grew up with a lot of Nickelodeon, now I'm like, well, after watching Quiet on Set, like I'm given like a completely different context to that, to what was going on at that time. So um yeah, we can't have nice things anymore. So because it's hard to tell when somebody's an asshole, and we don't get them out quick enough, I guess. And people are so pushed back against cancel culture. It's like, yeah, but if we don't say something at the point, then it becomes like this thing, and then there's all of this stuff that's left behind, all these films, and then we don't know what to do with them, and then there's an argument, and then so Jesus. So the one thing that I can say about this movie is it is kind. And as far as a grade, I'm just going to shoot it down the middle and say I'm going to give Fat Albert a C. Just say it's average because it's too cheesy for me to give it anything higher than that. But I really like the message. I really like the kindness that he brings with it, and the warmth. And this year we needed that. So it was an interesting change of pace coming from a very unexpected source. I thought I'd be having a very different conversation, but then I really remembered. I really got to see this film again from. I've only seen this film. This is only my second time watching it. I saw it once in theaters when it came out, and I think because of being able to analyze the the warmth aspect of this, it actually kind of moved up a little bit. I probably would have, if you had asked me without a second rewatch, I probably would have said, I don't know, D plus, C minus, something like that. But I think it's moved up a little bit because I appreciate the warmth and kindness, even though there's this giant elephant in the room. He who shall not be named, Voldemort, is in this. But yeah. Anyway, that's it. If you sat through this, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Yell at me in the comments if you're like, don't even give this coverage. And it's like, I don't know. But people were in this, you know, that's the sad truth, is that now these people are tied. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is also part of these actors' careers. And it's like being in a Kevin Spacey movie, you know, it's the same thing. It's just like, how do we talk about it? You know, well, other people were in those movies. They were really good. So let's still talk about that. So thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys on the other side.